If you watch The Lion Guard, you know Jasiri is different. She's not like Scar's hyenas, the ones who laugh too much, followed orders without thinking, and basically turned the Pride Lands into a wasteland. No, Jasiri is the opposite. She's smart, honorable, and actually respects the circle of life. But that raises a huge question. Why? What made her this way when every other hyena we've seen before was basically Scar's personal army?
Oh, this ain't about turf, Jasiri. I told you this wasn't over.
The series never flat out tells us, but if you dig a little deeper, you'll realize something. Jasiri's backstory might be way darker than we ever thought. And it all starts with one simple fact. There were two different groups of hyenas. In The Lion King, Scar had his own crew of hyenas. Shenzi, Banzai, Ed, and a whole bunch of others who did whatever he wanted. These hyenas were all about taking power, breaking the rules, and eating whatever they wanted, even if it meant ruining the Pride Lands. They didn't care about balance or respecting the land. They just followed Scar because he promised them food and power. And when he finally took over, they helped him wreck everything.
Why am I so confused? Oh, it all used to be so simple.
But then the Lion Guard comes along and introduces us to Jasiri and her clan. And guess what? They're nothing like Scar's hyenas. They respect the circle of life. They don't pick fights just because they're hungry. They actually work together with other animals instead of trying to eat them. That's a massive difference. So here's the big question. If all hyenas were supposed to be the same, why is Jasiri's clan so different? That's where things get interesting, because the answer might be something really messed up. Think about it. Jasiri and her hyenas didn't follow Scar's rule. That means they probably never supported him in the first place. And that's not a good thing when you're dealing with someone like Scar.
Though you're made of flesh, and I'm made of flame.
Scar wasn't exactly the forgiving type. If he had a group of hyenas that refused to follow his orders, what do you think he did? Let them live in peace? Nope. If history has taught us anything, it's that dictators don't like opposition. Scar's hyenas could have easily labeled Jasiri's clan as traitors and turned on them. Imagine it. Jasiri's family might have spent years being hunted just for refusing to side with Scar. They were hyenas, but they weren't his hyenas, and that probably made them enemies. That could explain why we never see Jasiri's clan anywhere near the Pride Lands when Scar was in power. They had to stay far, far away just to survive. And if Scar's loyal hyenas were after them, that also explains why Jasiri is such a skilled fighter.
Gotcha now, Jasiri.
You think?
Ow, hey!
She's young, but she's tough. She knows how to defend herself. And let's be real, no one gets that good at fighting unless they have to. Jasiri might have been fighting for her life since she was a pup. So we know Jasiri's clan wasn't part of Scar's gang. But where did they go? The Outlands. And yeah, I know that might not seem like a big deal at first. After all, hyenas live in the Outlands, right? But here's the thing, not all hyenas. In The Lion King, Scar's hyenas lived right next to the Pride Lands. They had the elephant graveyard, dark, spooky, but still close enough to the main kingdom.
Hey, this place is nicer than our den.
Lots of pretty pictures, too.
Jasiri's clan, on the other hand, was way farther out, in the deeper part of the Outlands. And let's be real, no one chooses to live in a place called the Outlands unless they have to. It's dry, it's rough, and it's basically a wasteland. So why would Jasiri's clan live there? Simple, because they had nowhere else to go. If Scar's hyenas drove them out, they would have had to run as far away as possible just to stay alive. That means Jasiri didn't grow up in a safe, peaceful place. She grew up in a war zone, always looking over her shoulder, always ready to fight. And that kind of childhood changes you.
Oh, one day.
We'd hate to keep them waiting.
Going somewhere?
When Scar died, his hyenas turned on him. But that didn't just magically solve everything. If anything, it made it worse. Because now, without Scar, the hyenas didn't have a leader. And when you've got a bunch of aggressive, power-hungry animals with no clear direction, what happens? They fight each other. That's right. There was probably a full-on hyena civil war after Scar's death. The hyenas that followed Scar wanted to keep their power. The ones that didn't, like Jasiri's clan, just wanted to live in peace. And you know what happens when two sides want completely different things? They clash. That might explain why Jasiri and Janja really don't like each other. Sure, in the show it seems like it's a simple good versus bad thing, but what if it's deeper than that? What if Jasiri and Janja's families have been fighting for years? That would explain why Jasiri is so serious and battle-ready at such a young age. Her clan is hidden away in the roughest part of the Outlands, and she immediately sees Janja as a threat and doesn't trust him. And if her clan was nearly wiped out during this war, that would explain something else too, why we never see her parents.
Outlanders, just so long as we respect the circle of life.
Being a leader is hard, like really hard. And if you think about it, Jasiri didn't exactly have a choice in the matter. She wasn't some powerful elder hyena who worked her way up through the ranks. She wasn't elected, and she definitely didn't inherit the position from her parents, because, well, where are her parents? Nope, Jasiri became a leader because someone had to step up, and when no one else did, she took the job. And that's a lot of weight to carry for someone so young.
We'll make sure the rest of the Pridelanders get home safe. Thank you, Kion.
Let's talk about the giant elephant in the room, Jasiri's parents. Or more accurately, the fact that we never see them. Not once, not even in a flashback. Now, if this was any other hyena in the Lion Guard, you might not think much of it. But Jasiri, she's leading an entire clan. And in the world of hyenas, leadership usually goes to the strongest, the smartest, or the eldest. Jasiri is smart, sure. She's strong, no doubt, but she's young. How did she end up in charge? The most logical answer, her parents aren't around anymore, and if they were, they'd probably be leading. But if they're gone, that raises another question. What happened to them? And that's where things get dark, because the more you think about it, the more it makes sense that Jasiri's parents were killed. Maybe they died fighting Scar's hyenas. Maybe they were caught in the hyena civil war we talked about earlier. Or maybe, and this is the worst one, Scar himself decided they were a problem and had them taken out.
What are you doing here? I'm here to help. If you say so. But I got him right where I want him.
No matter how it happened, one thing is clear. Jasiri didn't just become a leader. She was forced to be one. Most kids get to, be kids. They get time to figure things out, make mistakes, and slowly take on responsibility. Jasiri, she had to grow up fast. If her parents were gone, then it was up to her to take care of her sister, Medoa. And not just in the make sure she eats kind of way. No, Jasiri had to step up in a big way, protecting Medoa, making sure she was safe, teaching her how to survive. Imagine for a second, you're a kid, barely figuring out life yourself, and suddenly you have to be the one in charge. You have to be the one making the tough calls, keeping your family together, and making sure no one starves. That's a lot for anyone to handle, let alone a young hyena growing up in one of the roughest places in the Pridelands. And you can see it in the way Jasiri acts. She's confident, she's responsible, and she doesn't back down from danger. But at the same time, she's serious. She doesn't mess around like Janja's hyenas. She doesn't take unnecessary risks. She's got this quiet maturity that makes it clear. This girl has been through some stuff. Jasiri doesn't just lead her clan, she protects them. And that's a big deal, because when you think about it, she's not leading a huge army. She's not some warlord sitting on a throne. She's basically holding together a tiny group of hyenas who have been struggling to survive for years.
Why? Why did you help me?
I'd help any hyena, Janja. Sisi ni sawa.
And that's why she takes her role so seriously. When you've lost as much as she probably has, you hold on tight to what you have left. You don't let anyone threaten it. And if anyone does try, well, they're gonna have to go through you first. This explains why Jasiri doesn't just tolerate Janja's clan, she hates them. It's not just about the different beliefs or moral differences, this is personal. Jasiri has likely lost family and friends because of Scar's ways. She's seen firsthand what happens when hyenas follow the wrong leader. That's why, from the moment she meets Janja, she's not scared of him. She doesn't back down, because she spent her whole life fighting against everything he stands for. The crazy thing is, Jasiri isn't just leading hyenas. She's actually changing the way hyenas think. That's a huge deal. Hyenas have always been seen as scavengers, troublemakers, villains. Even in the Pridelands, they're looked down on. And for the most part, they've never really done anything to change that reputation. Until Jasiri. She's proof that hyenas don't have to be the bad guys. They can be honorable, they can be fair, they can be trusted. And that's probably one of the hardest things she's ever had to do. convince not just other hyenas, but everyone else that her way is the right way. And let's be honest, that's exhausting. Imagine trying to change the entire mindset of your species while also keeping your family and friends alive. That's what Jasiri is doing every single day.
Okay, Janja?
Oh, I think I liked it better when Kion just used his roar to blast us back to the...
Jasiri's story is kind of heartbreaking when you really think about it. She wasn't just handed a leadership role, she had to fight for it. She had to grow up too fast, lose people she loved, and step into a role she probably wasn't ready for. And yet, despite all of that, she chooses to be good. She could have taken the easy way out. She could have become like Janja, using force and intimidation to get what she wanted. She could have let her past make her bitter and angry. But she didn't. Instead, she became something even rarer, a hyena who leads with kindness. A hyena who believes in something bigger than herself. A hyena who fights not just because she wants to, but because she has to.
You were right. Scar don't care about us hyenas.
And what made you realize that?
The rest of my clan is trapped in a fire at Pride Rock.
Jasiri is the leader she never had, the protector she always needed, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, hyenas can be more than what everyone thinks they are. And that makes her one of the strongest characters in the Lion Guard. So we've talked about how Jasiri grew up in a world that didn't exactly make things easy for her. No parents, no real support, just a whole lot of responsibility thrown at her before she even had time to figure out if she liked it. And honestly, that alone would be enough to shape someone into a total survivor. But Jasiri's story doesn't stop there. If anything, that was just the beginning. Because while most people would have looked at the world around them and decided, you know what, I'm just gonna look out for myself, Jasiri did the complete opposite. She didn't survive, she fought back, and she never stopped. Jasiri never got a break, like ever. Think about it, every time we see her in the Lion Guard, she's dealing with something. Either she's stopping Janja's clan from causing chaos, standing up to hyenas twice her size, or forming an actual resistance to fight against Scar. A resistance.
Keep them all running in one direction!
Sure thing, Jasiri. Hey, being a good guy's just like being a bad guy.
You know how bad things have to get before someone says, okay, that's it, I'm officially starting a rebellion. Really, really bad. And yet when Scar came back, yes, somehow that guy found a way to return even after being eaten alive, Jasiri didn't hesitate. She didn't hide. She didn't try to wait things out. No, she immediately stepped up and created the hyena resistance. I just want to take a second to appreciate how crazy that is. Most hyenas in the Outlands were terrified of Scar. They remembered what he did, they knew what he was capable of, and they probably figured it was safer to just stay out of it. But Jasiri, she took one look at the situation and went, nope, not happening, not on my watch. And that's leadership. Not because she wanted power, not because she wanted to prove something, but because she knew someone had to fight back. And once again, just like before, no one else was stepping up. Of course, Jasiri wasn't just fighting Scar. She was also constantly dealing with Janja and his clan. And this wasn't just some simple rivalry. This was personal.
Jasiri!
Back so soon, Janja? I already told you, this is my turf now.
You can tell from the way they talk to each other that there's history there. Jasiri doesn't just see Janja as an enemy. She sees him as everything wrong with the Outlands. He's reckless, he's selfish, and he follows the same destructive path that got the hyenas into trouble in the first place. And Janja, he hates how right she is. That's the funny part. Deep down, Janja knows Jasiri is right. He knows she's smarter, stronger, and just better at leading than he is. And that's exactly why he's always trying to tear her down. If she succeeds, it proves that hyenas don't have to live the way he does. And that's a truth Janja just isn't ready to deal with. But Jasiri, she never stops pushing. She doesn't just want to defeat Janja, she wants to change him. And somehow, against all odds, she actually does.
I've been thinking about something you said to me a while ago.
And what's that?
Sisi ni sawa means we're the same.
Here's the part that makes Jasiri so incredible. She doesn't just win battles, she wins people. Janja might start off as her biggest enemy, but by the end of the Lion Guard, he's literally following her orders. Her orders! That's insane. This isn't some minor character we're talking about. Janja was Scar's right-hand hyena, the guy leading attack after attack, the one who was supposed to hate Jasiri more than anyone. And yet, she doesn't just defeat him, she makes him see that he was wrong. That's the difference between Jasiri and every other leader we've seen. She doesn't just want to destroy her enemies, she wants to fix them. She doesn't just want Janja to suffer, she just wants him to be better. And that's why she's so much more than just another good guy. She's actually changing the way hyenas think. She's proving over and over again that they don't have to be villains. They don't have to be Scar's followers. They can be more. Of course, even after all of that, Jasiri still doesn't catch a break. Even when Scar is defeated and Janja finally switches sides, she's still left dealing with the aftermath. Because while the Pride Lands get their happy ending, the Outlands, they're still a mess. And that's when Keon does something big. He actually invites Jasiri and her clan to come live in the Pride Lands, to leave the Outlands behind and finally live in peace. And you know what Jasiri says? No. Not because she doesn't want to, not because she doesn't think she deserves it, but because she knows that if she leaves, the Outlands will fall apart all over again. And she can't let that happen. That's what makes Jasiri such a legend. She could have chosen the easy life. She could have walked away, let someone else deal with it, finally gotten the peace she deserves. But she doesn't. She stays. Because at the end of the day, the Outlands are her home. Her clan is her responsibility. And even after everything she's been through, losing her parents, fighting a war, leading a rebellion, she still isn't done. She's still willing to put everyone else before herself. And honestly, that makes her braver than almost any other character in the Lion Guard. So what do we take away from all this? Jasiri isn't just the good hyena. She isn't some friendly character who helps Keon every now and then. She's a survivor, a warrior, a leader. She's someone who had every reason to give up, to turn bitter, to let the world break her. But instead, she fought back. She protected her family. She built something better. And she never once let the darkness change her. That's what makes her backstory so much darker than people think. Because behind that confident smile, behind that brave heart, there's a whole history of pain, loss, and struggle. She didn't just wake up one day and decide to be good. She had to be. Because if she wasn't, no one else would be.